Good evening, boys and girls. Tonight I want to teach you a little something about our next lesson for math, so that tomorrow we can get right into it and we can play some games with it. We're going to learn about something called exponents today. This is lesson 3-4. This is lesson 3-4. I'm going to change my color. It looks a little bit hard to see. And we are going to learn about a different way to multiply things and how to write our multiplication facts out. We already know how to multiply whole numbers. So today we are going to learn how to record or write down in a different way repeated multiplication. So, say we multiplied 5 factors of 4. A factor is that number that we multiply. So we want to multiply 5 factors of 4. This is another way of saying we want to multiply 4 5 times. We could write this out in a long way. We could say 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. Okay? That's a long way to write it. That is a very expanded form. However, there is an easier way to write that with an exponent. An exponent is a little number that goes up in the corner of our factor that tells us how many times we should multiply it. So, an exponent looks like this. If we want to multiply 4, which is our base number is the number that we are multiplying. And let's count again how many times. We want to do it 5 times. So if we multiply it by 5, this is our exponent. An exponent is the number of times the base, which is this guy right here, our 4, is used as a factor, which means we multiply. So that little number there, 4 to the 5th power, the 5th exponent, really helps us out because it's a lot easier to write that out and look at that than it is to write this out, especially when we're dealing with bigger numbers. Okay? So the first two things we learned what an exponent is, which is the number of times the base is used as a factor. We learned what the base is. The base is the number that we are working with and that we are multiplying. Okay? Just like with addition and subtraction, we do have 3 forms when we deal with exponents. These are going to sound really familiar to you, some of them. These 3 forms that we can write out our numbers. Our first form is our expanded form. So let's still deal with our 5 factors of 4. Remember, with addition, our expanded form is when we stretched everything out and we had a long number sentence. So our expanded form with exponents would be this one right up here, writing everything out. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. And there may be times when a problem might ask you to write something in expanded form, just like we did with addition. So that is our expanded form. Think of it as stretching it out. Then we have our exponential form. This one is new, okay? But it's just what it says. It's our exponential form. We use an exponent. Exponential form. Now we have this little base word of exponent there, which can help us out to remember that we need to have an exponent there. Remember that exponent is that small number. We can't write it the same size as our base because then we'll get confused, but it's our small number. So our exponential form for this, you can just get this by simply counting the amount of times that you want to multiply something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our base number with our exponent written up top in the corner. Okay? It's important to remember with this that we don't just look at it right away and say, okay, 4 times 5, because that's not what that means. Okay, so we have to remember that this little number up here tells us how many times we want to multiply this number. It's repeated addition, or repeated multiplication, I'm sorry. The last form, which will be familiar to you, is called standard form. standard form is just like it was when we did addition. It's simply answering the problem and having the answer in that simple, just a nice number form. I'm going to focus this real quick. It's getting a little blurry. So our standard form, if we work this out, if we do 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, or 4 to the 5th power, will work out to be 1,024. So remember, the standard form is the answer for your problem. Okay, so let's do some examples and just work with some of these. And just follow along as I do this. You can be taking notes too if you have your notebook at home. Do some examples. Let's work with 5 to the 6th power. Let's write this simply, let's just write it in expanded form. We're going to go from exponential form to expanded form. So I'm just going to write a nice little arrow. Okay, so 5 to the 6th power. So this little number, once again, is telling us that we have to multiply it 6 times. So it will be 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. And that's expanded form. Okay, so there we have exponential to expanded. Now let's go the other way. Let's work with 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That is our expanded form given to us. Now we want to put this in exponential form because it's a lot neater and easier to work with. Draw a nice little arrow. So we have to count how many times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we do our base, which is 3, which is the repeating number, and we multiplied it 4 times. Okay, do one more. Do 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Okay, this is expanded once again because it's very long and drawn out. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 7 is our base because that's our repeating number. But we also multiplied it 7 times. Okay, so that is how we go from one form to the other. And we all know how to multiply whole numbers, so that's not the hard part for us. That would be how we get to the standard form. But it's just working with this different form, these exponents, which look a bit different. And the most important thing that we need to take away from this is not just to simply multiply 7 times 7, because we won't get the right answer. We have to multiply 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 until we get that answer. And when you use exponential form and exponents, your number, your answer, is going to get very big very fast. But that's okay because that's what we want. But this is a nicer way to write it in a quick way and we'll understand it very well. The last thing that I want to talk about before I have you do some examples on your own for homework is some vocabulary and some language that we use with this. So let's just talk about some of the vocabulary. The first thing is exponent. We learned about exponents and we know what they mean. We know that it's the number of times the base is used as a factor. However, you're not always going to say exponent in your language. They might say power. So we have to know that exponent equals power. Okay? So for example, a question might say, write out the answer for 3 to the 4th power. Now all this simply means is that 3 will be our base, and the 4th power, think of power as this little corner one up here, okay? 3 to the 4th power means you're multiplying it 4 times. So you could also say, it doesn't make sense to say 3 to the 4th exponent, but it does make sense to say 3 to the 4th power. So that's what that means. Power is the same as exponent. That might tell you how many times you're multiplying it by. The other two vocabulary words or language that I would like you to know are squared and cubed. When you square something, it means you multiply it twice. So this could be the same thing as 2 to the 2nd power, which we now know means a little 2 small exponent. So let's say we want to do 3 squared. That means the same thing as 3 to the second power, or 3 with an exponent on top. Okay? So squared always means 2. You're always multiplying 2 times with squared. And the last thing I want you to do and talk about is cubed. When you cube something, you multiply it 3 times, which means the same thing as 2 to the third power. I'm running out of room. So say we want to say 3 cubed. It's another way of saying 3 to the third power, or 3 multiplied 3 times. Okay, so that is some language that you should know that will come up in problems and in books. After the third power, they will simply say 5 to the 7th power or 5 to the 10th power. There's no word for it like squared or cubed. Okay, so just for the second power and the third power, there was a special word. But other than that, it will simply tell you what power to go to, which will tell you exactly what number to write small in the right-hand corner. So now I would like you to complete the form with a couple of questions that I put for you on the website, and to show your understanding of this, we will go over this again tomorrow quickly at the beginning of our lesson, and then we're going to play a nice tag relay game all together that works with this so that we can reinforce it in practice. Thank you for working with me, boys and girls. Have a good night.